Jacksonville, he's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Friday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM, in for Rick Ballou with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us to close out the week. We are now inside of a week away from the NFL draft, at least the first round. 1 week from tonight, we'll have the head coach Dave Campo in studio with us as we will be on live during rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft, reacting certainly to what Jacksonville did in the first round on Thursday. And remember, they have 3 picks next Friday, 1 in round number 2 and 2 selections in round number 3. We're absolutely loaded tonight. Guest lineup looks like this. Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com, giving his thoughts on the offseason, his thoughts on the upcoming draft. Brian joins us in less than 15 minutes. Also, Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network stops by. Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team. A lot of NFL talk tonight up until 8 o'clock. Again, we are inside of 1 week away now from the NFL draft. We will hit on Denzel Aberdeen and Sam Alexis entering the transfer portal for the Florida Gator basketball team. What does that mean? A little Gator spring football wrap up as well. So we got a lot to do. We are with you again until 8 o'clock. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, because it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So here's where I'm at with the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right. Like I told Frangie there during the 2-minute drill, I still think Mason Graham is the pick. If you had to give me betting odds, I would say Mason Graham is still the favorite. That's the direction I would go. I told you guys that last night. It might be the boring pick. It might be the, quote, non-glamorous selection. But it's where I would go if I was Jacksonville next Thursday. Having said that, the Ashton Jeanty stuff is picking up steam, with very, very credible names in the NFL industry saying Ashton Jeanty to Jacksonville is very much in play. You heard Pete Prisco on the Frangie Show talk about it. Peter Schrager has talked about it, formerly of the NFL Network, now on ESPN. Jeremy Fowler on ESPN has mentioned Jeanty to Jacksonville, and maybe the most interesting one was Dane Brugler of The Athletic. I want to say Brugler was one of the first guys a few years back that had Trayvon Walker to Jacksonville. So when Brugler tweets out, yeah, I think Ashton Jeanty to Jacksonville at 5, that got my attention yesterday. That was one of those, all right, that's interesting moments. Let me give you a reasoning why I think Jeanty may actually be in play for Jacksonville. Again, I'm not saying I would do that, but why I believe it's a thought. You know, the Jaguars were in the playoffs in 2022, right? 9-8. The Jaguars started 8-3 in 2023 before injuries just absolutely destroyed their 2023 campaign. And truth be told, I'm not sure if the Jaguars ever recovered losing 5 out of those 6 at the end of 2023. I think you can say all the right things and you can say you're over it, but certainly didn't look like they got out of that funk when they lose their first 4 in 2024. And the season was over last year before it even started. You're 0-4. The season's cooked, man. You're done. And then the injuries started accumulating again. Point being, Jacksonville was bad last year, but they weren't 4-13 bad. They have more talent on this roster than a 4-13 team. I truly believe that. And I'm never one to be ultra positive Jaguar guy. If you would have told me in August of last year the Jaguars were going to go 4-13, I would have probably called you a liar. to your face or an idiot or whatever verbiage. I would not have believed you. How about that? But that's the reality. That's what they did. And because that's what they did, that's why they're picking in the top 5. And what if we heard Liam Cohen talk about, since he got the job, they're better than a 4-13 team? What have we heard James Gladstone talk about? They got more talent than a 4-13 team. Baselli has said the same thing. Those are the 3 guys in charge. What if, just stay with me here, what if the Jaguars are going to use going 4-13 last year to their advantage? They're picking in the top 5 with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr., Joshua Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, Foye Oluokun, Tyson Campbell, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. It's a lot of talent to be picking in the top 5. Look at some of the other teams that are picking in the top 5. They don't have that sort of talent, but that's where Jacksonville is. What if you swing for the fence, knowing you're not going to be picking in the top 5 again, hopefully for many years? What if you use 4-13 to your advantage and you swing for the fence on a blue chip prospect that you should not have the opportunity to draft? Because Jacksonville should not be picking in the top 5. They are. It's reality. I get that. But you can be the most staunch anti-Jaguar person listening to 1010XL, and I think you'll even admit they have more talent than a 4-13 team should probably have. Everybody says Mason Graham is a double, right? You've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot talking to draft analysts. He's a double. Be a good pick, good opening day starter. He's not going to strike out. May not be the home run, but he's a good, solid double, ground rule double kind of guy. Well, that's what I want. I told you, I want Mason Graham. But what if the Jaguars think they're better than 4-13? What if the Jaguars feel that they probably won't be picking in the top 5 again for a while? And if you're Liam Cohen and James Gladstone, you just got here, there's very little pressure on you in year 1. Is this the time to swing for the fence right out of the gate? Gladstone was asked on Tuesday at the pre-draft media luncheon about his first pick as the Jaguar GM, putting his stamp on the organization, laying the groundwork for years to come with this number 1 selection, his first draft pick as Jaguar GM. And what if next Thursday Roger Goodell walks across that aisle, gets to that podium, and says the Jacksonville Jaguars draft Ashton Genty, running back Boise State? That would be swinging for the fence. Now, you might strike out, right? When you swing for the fence, that's a possibility. That's why people say Mason Graham's a double, because they don't think he's going to be a bust. He might not be an all-pro, 7, 8, 9 times over, but he'll be a good, solid player. That's what they mean by saying he's a double. What if you swing for the fence and you connect on the first draft pick for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone, knowing you have years to get this thing right, knowing you have job security, knowing that you're not in any danger of losing your job in the next couple of years because you just got here? The team's probably too good to be picking in the top 5, but yet here they are. And you have the opportunity to swing for the fence. It's an intriguing thought. I wouldn't do it, but I know a lot of you would. The question is, will Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, and Tony Baselli do it? You want to put your stamp on this franchise? You want to announce your arrival and this is your franchise moving forward? Whew. Draft Ashton Genty next week at number 5. That would open some eyes around the league. That would open some eyes in your own fan base. That would be swinging for the fence in your first attempt at bat as the brand new Jaguar general manager and the brand new Jaguar head coach. As they say, to be continued next Thursday night in Green Bay, Wisconsin. A man that will be up in Green Bay, Wisconsin is my buddy Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Let's review the offseason with Brian. Let's look ahead to the draft. What's his thought about Mason Graham? His thought about Ashton Genty, Jalen Walker, all the names that we've been hearing. We'll talk with Brian Sexton next on a Friday night here in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us till 8 o'clock right here on Hacker After Dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the first door prize and all expense paid trip to
1010XL.
MOV, ING, Southside Kia is moving. Our moving sale is on right now. Help us clear new Kias out. Our current selection's got 200 plus Kias on the lot. Hurry to save big with us. New rides starting at just $20,000 bucks. Plus, bring your tax refund today. We'll double it up to $5K. MOV, ING, get to Southside Kia this spring. Online at SouthsideKiaJacks.com. Get your next ride at Southside. For complete details, call 904-325-9208.
I'm Chris Campione. Auto accidents can leave you feeling lost and overwhelmed. But at Campione Law, we're here to guide you with a personal touch through every step of the process. We don't get paid unless you get paid. CampioneLaw.com.
Count on Campione, Campione Law.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold and silver and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at almost $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar or trade it in for a new piece and get even more value at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Are you ready for some exciting football action? Your Jacksonville Sharks take on the Massachusetts Pirates Saturday, April 19th. Get family 4-packs, 4 tickets, 4 $10 vouchers, and a $20 Al's Pizza gift card, all for only $100. Don't miss the unforgettable Frisbee Dogs and keep an eye out for the Easter Bunny. A fun night for the kids. Get tickets at jacksharks.com or call 904-621-0700. 904-621-0700.
Prosser here. The Jacksonville Sharks are 3-0 and ready to make it 4-0 this weekend as your Jacksonville Sharks take on the Massachusetts Pirates this Saturday. Get our family 4-packs, 4 tickets, 4 $10 vouchers, and a $20 Al's Pizza gift card, all for just $100. Don't miss the unforgettable Frisbee Dogs and keep an eye out for the Easter Bunny. For tickets, go to jacksharks.com or call 904-621-0700. That's 904-621-0700. And go Sharks! Go Sharks!
Get to know positions and players. The 1010XL Ultimate Draft Guide is brought to you by Blue Haven Pools, the #1 pool builder in Jacksonville. Follow rankings and roundtables as the draft takes shape. Go to 1010XL.com/2025 draft guide to get yours.
Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars. Make them your AC partner with honest cost estimates before they start the work with no hidden fees. Call 777-4300 for Florida Home AC.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
E.T. here, and it's time for the Taste of Golf at TPC Sawgrass, April 23rd. Join me for fine cuisine from chefs from the top golf clubs in our area. Craft cocktails, games, and unique auction items will be present. This is one of the most impactful charitable events in our area. Come network with a sophisticated audience who's passionate about golf and its values, while impacting the youth in our community. All proceeds benefit First Tee, North Florida. For tickets, go to tasteofgolf.com. Come on, somebody.
Getting a pool?
David Garrard here. I just did. But before they dug, I called Clearwater Irrigation, and they capped off all my sprinkler lines so the pool company could just dig away.
Then when your pool's finished, we'll install your sprinkler system back to full coverage.
And now my backyard oasis is getting watered beautifully.
And maybe then, Dave, I could take another quick dip.
Bigger swimming trunks, John. Much bigger.
Clearwater Irrigation.
And drainage, too.
You'll always feel good when you send someone a Kuhn Flowers floral or plant arrangement. This is JJ with 1010XL, and no matter what the reason, Kuhn Flowers has always come through for me. Order online at kuhnflowers.com.
When it comes to towing products, your safety is the priority at Cannons of Jacksonville. Cannons has decades of experience to ensure your towing setup is installed with precision and reliability. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, your trusted partner for a smoother tow.
Ackerman Cancer Center, celebrating 10 years of excellence in cancer screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Always accepting new patients and 99% of all insurances. Call now to schedule a new consultation within 48 hours. Learn more at ackermancancercenter.com.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for Instant Keys locksmith service.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. And just like that, the NFL draft is next week in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Jaguars have 10 overall picks, 6 in the top 126 selections, and of course, all eyes are on the number 5 pick in round number 1. Let's talk to a man that will be on the ground up in Green Bay, Wisconsin next week. My buddy Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Brian, how we doing?
Brian, I'm doing great. Looking forward to Green Bay. You know, I've enjoyed going and traveling around to the draft since 2015 when they moved it out of New York and started in Chicago. It's been great. But there's just something distinct, unique about Green Bay, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it, no doubt about that. Green Bay, Wisconsin's going to be a lot of fun, and it should be quite the weekend for the Jaguars with 10 overall picks. And I want to get there in one moment, Brian, but first and foremost, you guys over at Jaguars.com, PCAV, DeCandis, the whole team over there, I got to tell you, The Hunt a week and a half ago, the first episode that came out with Cohen and Gladstone, man, I thought that was absolutely spectacular.
You know, there's a lot of people that go into putting that production together. I am not one of them. But Gabby Dalton and Trent and Everett Sullivan, I mean, I got to give them some credit, not some credit, a lot of credit, because they're the ones who have those cameras. They're the ones who are looking for the story through the lens. It is that first-person approach to journalism. It's changed the way that the story is told in professional sports. And I like to think that the Jaguars production department, you know, led by Pat and Dave, but with Trent and Gabby and Ev and that whole crew that are really, you know, they're on the cutting edge of it.
Brian, from an outside view, because obviously I'm not in the stadium in the Miller Electric Center every day like you are, but watching that, boy, the vibe in the building just seemed different, right? And you've been through every regime, and sometimes we say that just to make people feel better, even though the vibe maybe isn't as different as we make it seem. But it does feel different with the youth movement down there with the Jaguars right now.
Yeah, you know, so Tony Baselli called a meeting last week. You probably heard about it. And it was Liam talking to his coaches and the football operations people, the equipment team, the video team, the medical training team, all of them, public relations, and they invited the production team to come in. And it was the first time I had been in that sort of a meeting since the early days, 94 and 95, before the entire thing was built out. And ironically, it felt like 94 and 95 again to listen to Liam lay out the plan. Not to say that other coaches through the years haven't had a good plan, but there was an energy about it that got me excited. And I texted Tony after, and I said, you're on to something. It feels like the early days again, and why shouldn't it? There was such purpose back in those days about getting off to a good start, about the name of the Jaguars in the National Football League. And longtime observers will remember that all of the media attention was up in Charlotte with Carolina, and we were sort of the other expansion team. So it felt like we had to get off to a great start, and everybody had to be on the same page and a great purpose. It felt that way to listen to Liam talk and to lay out his vision for the way that they were going to play, the way that they were going to work. And I was just blown away, but I left going, wow. And I'm not, I'm not deep in it. I'm not, in the meetings, and I'm not in those hallways back where the coaches are. So that was really my first big taste of it. And I really enjoyed it. I'm an optimist. I'm a half full, glass half full guy anyway, but I really have a good feeling about the way that the three principals, Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, and Tony Boselli, are working together on the vision of what this is going to be.
Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. One of the interesting things Boselli said in the hunt was talking about when he was here in 1995, and that's kind of the reason he wanted to be the EVP now, getting basically a blank canvas on the ground floor. He referred to it as ground I'll refer to it as ground zero, although that's maybe not exactly what Tony referred to it as. But the point was there were a lot of similarities. There's not a lot of people, Brian, in that building now that were here in 1995. Boselli was one. You are also one of them. Do you sense similarities like Tony does?
No, I absolutely do. And I'll go back to the word that I used just a moment ago, and that is purpose. There was so much that needed to be done in 1995. And, of course, it isn't quite to that level because everything is built in terms of the facilities. Back then, we were operating out of trailers. Everything was sort of half-built, which meant that you had to work around things. The first time I ever met Tony, I was running to the weight room, and I needed someone to tell me where it was, dodging forklifts and crates in 1995 to do an interview with him and Angie. And, I mean, that was a different era. But there is that sense of purpose. They've changed, right? You've heard me say this is now the hedge fund generation of coaches, the young, analytical, data-driven, courageous, not afraid to make mistake guys. And that feels, completely different. It's always felt like, and for old guys like me who've been around, hey, this is how we do it in the NFL. This is the standard. There were some deviations from franchise to franchise, but there was a way that football people did it. That's not the story anymore. Now they're breaking paradigms, pushing envelopes. You probably heard they didn't do any of the 30 visits, right? Where you can bring in 30 prospects because they don't see the value in it relative to other elements and metrics that are concerning to them. They just do things differently, and maybe because the results have been mixed or below mixed for so long, that's the refreshing part about it. I was excited about Doug when he came in because Doug brought a championship pedigree. He had won a championship as a player. He had won a championship as a coach, and I was very optimistic about that. But he was still working from the old paradigms. This thing feels like it was swept clean.
And you talk about being swept clean, that gets us to the roster construction. Obviously, there'll be a cherry on top next week with those 10 draft picks, but I haven't talked to you, I don't believe, since right around free agency. You think about all the guys that are gone, right? All the guys that came in. They're the only team in the league that didn't re-sign any of their own, and they obviously released the likes of Ingram and Darby and Duvernay, and they bring in 10 outside free agents. I mean, Brian, there was a ton of movement player personnel-wise this offseason.
Well, as we just talked about, they're changing everything. And so the norms of, we brought this guy in last year to do this. Well, everything's different. So we don't need him anymore because we don't do that anymore without being specific to any one player. It just changed so dramatically. And for all the people who were so hypercritical of Shad Khan when he didn't instantly clean things out, well, he did clean everything out. And he has given them the means, right, the blank checkbook to go out and take their vision and implement it fully. Not every owner does that. He brings them in and he works them through the process, right? But doesn't just untether them and say, go get it done. He has given them the tools, the resources, financial and otherwise, to be able to implement their program. And so they did. They didn't spend time trying to recycle guys to save money against the cap. In fact, I think they've got the third or fourth biggest dead cap charge this year because they are moving on. And they went out and found, I don't want to say bargains, but they went out and found guys that met their criteria as people, as leaders, as players that fit a certain price criteria as well. And they feel real good. You heard them all say, we've raised the floor. So they believe that the moves they made, the only detriment right now is that it constricted some of their cap, but they still have plenty of money. If you look at their salary cap, they can go do things. They're not so up against it like a New Orleans, right? That they can maneuver and make changes to the roster in the fall. They're set up very, very well.
Final moments with Brian Sexton. Brian, I know in years past I've had you on before the draft, and like the same guy was getting mocked to Jacksonville over and over and over. And I got to thinking, all right, it's too obvious. Something's up here. And then ultimately that guy is not selected by the Jaguars. And you kind of have that same vibe with Mason Graham, except this year, Brian, to me, that just seems like too good a fit. Position need. You look at what Gladstone did with the drafts in L.A. with Les Snead on the D-line. Boy, if Mason Graham is there at 5, it's hard to think he wouldn't be a Jaguar, is it not?
Well, listen, you can make the case for it, especially with the 2 premier pass rushers you have on the outside. And quarterbacks are always able to avoid them by stepping up into the pocket. There hasn't been pressure. But, let me take a different tact. They drafted Mason Smith, and they drafted Jefferson from LSU last year. And these are talented young guys. There's no denying that. So they might not see the need factor that you or the outside mock drafters do. It's a good draft for defensive tackles. You can find guys who can play into round 3. I'm going to tell you that if it's me, and I think they're thinking I don't want to say they're thinking like me, but I think when you look at the touchdown production, Kirk is gone. Ingram's gone. Where are the touchdowns coming from? You have guys that are going to be sitting there. Ashton Genty, who I have heard comparisons to LaDainian Tomlinson on the high end and Christian McCaffrey on the low end. That's a great range, right? That's an amazing range. He's a touchdown maker. And don't forget that last year it was the running game that sparked that Buccaneers offense and got Baker Mayfield to play the best football of his career with this offensive coordinator. So maybe it's Ashton Genty if he's sitting there. I love Tyler Warren. I mean, the guy's got the length of Gronkowski and the ability, the multifaceted talent of a Travis Kelce. I'm not trying to say he is that good, but I loved watching the USC Penn State game and all the different ways that Andy Kotelnicki, their great offensive coordinator, used Tyler Warren. Maybe one of the receivers. Maybe they back up. I get it. Mason Graham, Mason Smith, both defensive tackles. I get them confused. It makes sense. But mock drafters look at teams and they try to pair teams with need and players. They don't know who they like. That's the really interesting part, because the Jaguars aren't telling people, hey, we like him. We don't love him. We like this guy. So teams are just trying to pair up. Mock drafters are trying to pair up teams with need and fit. And that's a need and that's a fit. But it doesn't mean they love him, and it doesn't mean that's who they're going to pick. So I would say at this point, because it's new with Gladstone and Cohen and Baselli, all bets are off.
Oh, it's a good point.
All bets are off.
It's a good point you made with Genty and Warren. I would even lump Jalen Walker potentially into the mix, because Gladstone always talks about the intangibles. Well, you talk to anybody in Athens, Georgia, and Jalen Walker apparently has unbelievable intangibles as a leader on the football field. Brian, final question. I mean, you look at this Jaguar football team from where they ended the season on January 6th to where they are now, obviously a draft class to come. Do you feel that they've gotten better? I mean, is this a better unit? I guess you have to lump the staff there too, right? New GM, new coaching staff. Are the Jaguars in a better place now than they were at the end of the season?
That's a great question. It's so hard to measure the progress, right? Because we can measure it on paper, but we did that last year, and we had playoff expectations, and they didn't play out. I want to say yes, but I realize that's an emotional response from me. I was at the Baselli Foundation last evening, and earlier today I was around a lot of the coaches, so I feel good about what I'm hearing from them. It's an emotional response from me right now. It's not a factual one. I think they are, but I can't prove that. People who are so ready to see change probably feel that way, but it's emotional. It's not factual. All of this comes back to the quarterback, right? We can talk about the draft and free agency and the coaching staff, but it's Liam Cohen and Grant Uzinski. It's the offensive staff. It's their ability to get the most out of the franchise quarterback. If they have a plan, if the footwork drills they're working, if Trevor's healthy and they get the most out of him, then yes, 100%, absolutely. I just haven't seen it. Neither have you. And we're not going to know until we get into training camp in the preseason, maybe not to the regular season. But emotionally, man, I feel real good about what I'm seeing and hearing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And they're going to add probably 10 or more guys next week. You will be up in Green Bay, Jaguars.com. Brian, tell us about the coverage you guys will have next week.
Well, listen, I mean, we will be wall-to-wall when the Jaguars are on the clock. We're restricted more than we ever have been in terms of how often we can be on the air because we have to protect NFL Network and ESPN's coverage somewhat. But when they're on the clock, we will have all the stories. And afterwards, we'll hear from the coach. We'll hear from the general manager. Hopefully, we'll hear from Tony Boselli. We'll have an interview that I hope to do with the player. You know, players don't go to the draft like they all used to. So I can be in Green Bay and the Jaguars can take a player who's not there, but we'll get coverage on the radio and on our internet coverage over the phone. So no one will tell the Jaguar story better than our coverage, which of course includes 1010XL.
Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com. Brian, I know you're busy. Thank you for taking time out. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Always, Ryan. Happy to help.
Thank you to Brian Sexton, Jaguars.com, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. And again, makes a compelling argument. You know, we've talked so much about Mason Graham, but he talked about Ashton Genty, right? Tyler Warren, Jalen Walker. I actually put a poll out on my X account. It sounds kind of dirty, right? My Twitter/X account. How about that? The poll was, who are you going to take of those four? Ashton Genty, Mason Graham, obviously put Jalen Walker, and let me pull up the results here. All right, so the results are in, at least for right now. We've had 175 people vote since I put it up about 45 minutes ago. Ashton Genty is the leader with 57%. Mason Graham, 28%. I had Will Campbell up there with almost 9%. Jalen Walker in last with 6%. So, of the 175 people that have voted so far in the last hour, overwhelmingly, people want Ashton Genty to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Interesting. He leads Mason Graham almost over a 2-1 margin in this poll. Feel free to go to Ryan Green 1010XL on Twitter/X and make your opinion heard. We'll continue the conversation. I want to get more in to Ashton Genty. I want to talk about Mason Graham. I want to talk about how those first four picks are going to play out as well. Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network joins us next on a Friday night here in Northeast Florida with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. We're in for Baloo until 8 o'clock right here on Hacker After Dark.
Get Florida Gators play-by-play on 1010XL.
Florida and Mississippi State spend Easter weekend in Starkville. Catch every pitch Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon on 1010 AM.
Are you ready to step up to luxury?
Check out the power of our exciting 2025 lineup, including the Lyric, IQ, Optique, and the stunning Vistique.
With over 15 electric Cadillacs in stock and more on the way, it's the perfect time to trade in your Tesla and embrace luxury with a twist.
At Randy Marion, there are no tariffs. So visit Randy Marion Cadillac on Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville, and see why our electric lineup turns heads.
Don't miss out. Drive Cadillac, electric or gas. We have both. Plus tax tag title $9.99 admin fee and resist all on approved credit.
Is your backyard ready for the big leagues? Pick it here for Surfside Pools. Serving Northeast Florida since 1977, they have the home field advantage. Family owned and operated, offering weekly pool service, equipment repairs, commercial maintenance, remodels, and new pool construction. Let Surfside Pools make your backyard dreams a reality. Are you ready to float happy? Visit SurfsidePools.net or call 904-246-2666. Surfside Pools and Spas, your hometown MVP.
License number CPC 044080.
Get a healthy start in 2025. The Florida Department of Health in Duval County is here to encourage you to get healthy and stay healthy this year. They have a dedicated team who are committed to providing quality care.
The goal is to protect, promote, and improve the health of you and your family. Visit duval.floridahealth.gov to learn more about their health programs and services. That's duval.floridahealth.gov.
Need a fast casual option that's healthy, fresh, and delicious? Choose the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. Gyros, salads, hummus, and more made completely fresh right as you order. Off 210 and St. John's Parkway. The Great Greek Mediterranean Grill.
It's fun to predict because it's usually unpredictable. 1010XL's draft coverage is brought to you by Renewal by Anderson Windows and Doors and First Coast Recyclers. Roll through the offseason with AA Automotive.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
Jeff Prosser here for Lloyd's Heating and Air. Need a leader for commercial, retail, multifamily, or hospitality projects? Or top-tier residential service? No gimmicks, no mascots, just real expertise and hard work. As your trusted statewide mechanical partner and local family-owned team, Lloyd's is the name Northeast Florida counts on. Visit Lloyd'sHeatingandAir.com. Lloyd's Heating and Air, keeping you comfortable in every season.
Direct from Broadway, MJ, the Tony Award-winning musical, is starting something all across America. Get tickets now to what the Washington Post calls a runaway hit. MJ the Musical, playing Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts April 22nd through 27th. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
Get ready for the best prices ever on all diamond stud earrings and all tennis bracelets at Beard's Diamonds. For 7 days, April 21st through 27th, you will get up to 40% off. Yes, 40%. Locally owned Beard's Diamonds always beats the big corporate store prices. But next week, they're taking value to a whole new level. All diamond stud earrings and all tennis bracelets are on sale. Big time. Best prices ever. You save up to 40%. Don't miss this first time ever buying opportunity. Next week only, and only at Beard's Diamonds, St. John's Town Center. Shop local, shop Beard's.
Out with the old, in with the organized. Mia here for my friends at Closets by Design. Freshen up your home this spring with a custom organization solution. For a limited time, take advantage of our spring special and enjoy exclusive savings on closets, garages, home offices, and more. That's 40% off with an additional 15% off with 12-month special financing through April. Spring on this deal before it's gone. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation with Closets by Design.
Got a cracked windshield? Not only is it dangerous, but did you know it's also illegal? Call Baker Glass. Mack and his crew use the best auto glass in the market, and they accept most insurance. Plus, all new windshields come with a full warranty. From cars to trucks to RVs, you can count on Baker Glass to be fast and friendly. Just check out their Google reviews. Come see us at the shop on Casta Avenue, or we can come to you at your home or business.
I'm back with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Glad you're with us till 8 o'clock tonight. Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM. One of the guys I've had on for years is Ian Cummings, of Pro Football Network. Ian does a terrific job with the draft. Earlier on, I had the opportunity to catch up with Ian, talk Jaguars draft, talk Ashton Genty, Mason Graham, a little Jalen Walker. Here's that conversation on Hacker After Dark. Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Ian, how we doing, man?
Doing good, especially considering that we are 2 weeks away. It's the busiest time of year for me, but it's a lot of fun too, and especially with this NFL draft class in particular, a lot of uncertainty with the QB group, a lot of really impressive depth at positions like receiver, defensive tackle, running back. So, it's a fun class. I think you look at, the amount of variance past the top blue chip tier, a lot of things can happen, a lot of different outcomes on the line. So it's exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, Ian, we certainly appreciate you taking time out for us. And all right, all eyes are on that 5th pick here locally, but obviously the first 4 picks are going to tell the tale. First and foremost, let's get just the formality out of the way. Cam Ward's going number 1, correct?
It feels that way. There was that report that the Titans canceled their meeting with Shedeur after his pro day, and all accounts, all reports have said that they feel very strongly about Cam Ward. And looking at the evaluations, independent evaluations across the board, Cam Ward is my QB1 by a pretty sizable margin. And I think when you think about the qualifiers for those top QB prospects, it's not just the physical talent, but that is kind of a separator when you have 2 guys that are graded in that early round range, like Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Shedeur is a phenomenal player. He's very accurate. He's really good in structure, and I think that he'll have a productive NFL career. But Cam Ward just has that level of creation capacity, off-script ability, the arm elasticity, and the throwing talent that Shedeur Sanders can't match. So I think he will be the first pick of the draft. I think the Titans need a QB. I think Brian Callahan is really trying to get his guy, and I think he has an opportunity to do that here.
You mentioned Shedeur Sanders. He, to me, is kind of an anomaly, right? There was a lot of talk leading up that he would be a top 5 pick. Now it appears that's not the case, although you still talk to some people, and they still think he could be in play in the top 5. What's your overall thought on Shedeur Sanders 2 weeks out?
Yeah, it's tricky because my gut says that you have 2 very, very heavy QB needy teams in the Giants and the Browns. The Giants have hedged for it a little bit by signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, so they don't have to take a QB if they don't want to. But they both need long-term answers to QB, and Shedeur Sanders is the next best option in this class aside from Cam Ward. But as a prospect, I think he's a fringe first-round guy for me. I think he has enough talent to be an NFL starter, not an elite athlete or creative threat, but has enough quick twitch. If he has a runway in space, he's got some speed and evasive ability. He's got a good, not great arm. I do think he can drive velocity outside the hashes. And again, he's one of the most accurate throwers that we've seen in a long time. He's on schedule, accurate. He's got that competitive mentality that you want. My comp for him is kind of similar to Brock Purdy with the 49ers. I think in the right situation, with the right support, he can be a very good signal caller, but he's not the kind of elite physical talent to kind of offset inconsistencies with the process. And I think he's good behind the line. I think he's good in structure, but there are some lapses in progression work and pocket discipline that make you wonder, is he at that elite level where you can counteract that? So fringe first round, I'd be comfortable taking him in round 1, but you got to get him the right support.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network, with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. We're hoping Shedeur Sanders does fall into that top 4. That would knock somebody down the board to Jacksonville at 5. Conventional thinking is that Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter will be gone before Jacksonville picks, which then brings us to Mason Graham. And Ian, you've done this for a long time, man. Every mock draft that you see, or almost every one of them, has Mason Graham to Jacksonville, but it's never that simple, right? It's never this easy, correct? I mean, are you expecting that? Or are you expecting maybe a surprise at 5?
I think, looking at how the board could fall, right? I mean, there's only so many potential outcomes with just 4 picks ahead of Jacksonville, right? And whether it's going to be 1 QB or 2 QBs, we don't know. But even if it's just Cam Ward, you've got Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. We can assume that those 3 in some order will populate those 3 picks. And then who do the Patriots take in number 4? My gut would say either an offensive lineman or maybe a wide receiver, Carter, if you were to fall, right? But I think, the Patriots Patriots, their dream scenario is if one of Carter or Hunter is still on the board for them, right? And that, what dictates that is Shedeur Sanders probably has to go to one of those two teams at 2 or 3 for that to happen. So again, a lot on the line there, but then they take, I think, Armand Membu or Bill Campbell, one of those two. And, most outcomes do have Mason Graham being the top overall player remaining for the Jaguars, right? So I think that funnel effect is kind of what makes it such a popular pick. I do think for the Jaguars, they're in a good spot where you can kind of, just sit and watch what happens. And if one of those two guys, Hunter or Carter, does fall, Hunter in particular would be a phenomenal, haul for them, but I don't think he lasts until 5. So you kind of play it by ear. But Mason Graham is near blue chip range for me, defensive tackle. He's got the size at 6'3". He'll probably play closer to 315, 320. Not the longest guy with 32-inch arms, but he's explosive, super agile, great torque output on his extensions. And, he's one of those guys who's got the athleticism, the motor, the pass rush repertoire, and then really sturdy and run defense. Not quite a two-gapper, but I think you play him a 3-tech, 2-eye, 4-eye. He can hold the point. He can occlude gaps and make stops. And that kind of 2-phase, 3-down potential is really appealing for a team in Jacksonville that doesn't have a ton in the interior defensive line right now. So for me, it's the right confluence of player value and talent, but then also need for them. That's why it's such a popular pick. But again, if there is a surprising outcome with a guy falling who shouldn't, like Campbell or Membu on the offensive line, there are other outcomes out there.
When I ask people for a player comp for Mason Graham, the most I get is either Christian Wilkins or Jeffrey Simmons. Would you agree with that?
Christian Wilkins, Jeffrey Simmons, I think those two make a lot of sense. I haven't nailed down my own personal comp, and I like to make my own personal comps. I don't like to anchor it to one that I've seen online, right? It's really easy to do that. See someone say something about a guy like, oh, he looks like this. And then once you see someone make that association, it's a lot easier to say, oh, I see that too. I'll go and run with it. So I haven't nailed down a personal comp myself, but those two players, when you think about the archetype, right? You think about 6'3", 6'4", so pretty good natural leverage, but then also enough proportional length and torque output to work with. Dense guys with a lot of compact mass, and they can drive power with that, but then explosive, agile, hot motor. I think if you're looking for a certain mold, a certain archetype within which Graham can provide a kind of impact, I think, projecting for impact in NFL outcomes, I think those two are pretty sensible comps.
A couple more for Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network, talking NFL draft with us here on 1010XL. Ian, if there were to be a surprise, there's 3 names that are at least floating around here in Northeast Florida, and 2 I don't think are in play. 1 potentially could be, but I'm interested your quick thought. Ashton Genty is a name that's floating around a little bit. Tyler Warren is a name that's floating around a little bit, and at least in the fan base's eyes, Jalen Walker is a name floating around a little bit. What's your thought on those 3?
Yeah, those would all be very fun outcomes for the Jaguars if they were to make those picks. I think Genty, looking at the Jaguars situation, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Travis Etienne's deal is up after 2025, and Tank Bigsby in 2020 after 2026. So they have some contract uncertainty at the running back position, and also Etienne took a step back last year, right? Bigsby, was pretty good in relief and as a spot starter. They rotated between those guys, but Ashton Genty is pretty different as a runner. Right, you look at the evasive potential that he has, the contact balance combined with the agility, the creative instincts, the vision, the physicality, really low center of gravity as a runner. So he's as talented as a creator and a volume back as we've seen in a long time, probably since Bijan Robinson. And then he's a phenomenal receiving back too. So I think if you're looking for that game-changing presence at RB, you're in a pretty solid spot in the short term with Etienne and Bigsby. But Ashton Genty, with him, you get a high-level starter for 4 years of cost control at the RB position. So, I don't want to say that's out of the question. I think you have to consider it if you're Jacksonville, but also Jacksonville does have some other needs that could be spent better at premium positions. And you look at this RB class, how deep it is, they could get a guy on day 2 who could potentially fulfill a solid role as well. So I would, lean against it, but I love Genty as a player, so I won't argue too much. Tyler Warren, the tricky part with that is you see the Jaguars and how high they picked Brenton Strange, right? And you look at what else they have at the position. Johnny Munt as a blocker. They got Hunter Long as well. So none of those guys would preclude me from taking Tyler Warren. I'm a big fan of Tyler Warren. I know he's got that 3-down ability. He's got great catching instincts, but he's also just one of the most versatile players in the draft. They were using him as a wildcat QB, in line, in the slot, out wide, off motion. You can do so many different things with him. And I think that's the appeal, is that, there's no one who can replicate that kind of skill set. Even a guy like Brent Strange, who had that projected versatility, it doesn't amount to what Tyler Warren can do as a focal point, a target funnel for your offense. So I would be on board with that pick too. It just depends on what the Jaguars value Brent Strange, if they think that he can take a leap as the tight end one now that Evan Ingram's out of the picture. So it's a tricky situation, but Tyler Warren is a top 10 player on my board. So I would be on board with that. I think he fits well to the point where their skill sets aren't mutually exclusive and you can make it work. And then the last one, Jalen Walker, that's a tricky one for me because there have been a lot of different opinions on his projection. Some people have him as an edge rusher. At the NFL level, I don't think he quite has the size to be a full-time edge rusher, because if you're an edge rusher, right, there are going to be reps where you're going to have to play 5-tech or, face a dual block on the front side. And I don't think I don't think Jalen Walker has the size to, withstand dual blocks and double teams at 6'1", 250 with 32-inch arms. I think his best role is probably as an attacking Sam linebacker, right? He's really good as a pass rusher, coming downhill and covering single blocks. And I think that's where you're going to want to use him, when he can attack from space and from depth and use that bend, that power, that explosion. For the Jaguars in particular, I think it would probably be a little too high for him at 5th overall. But if you have a vision for him, we know Anthony Campanile comes from 2 schemes with, Brian Flores and Jeff Hafley. He's got that kind of, emphasis, and he's been impacted by those people. He's coached under them. Aggressiveness, blitzing, those things are going to be heavy in his scheme. And you think about the kinds of things that you can do with a player like Jalen Walker, who is so good on the attack downfield. I do think it bears consideration. I wouldn't do it quite that high because he's more of a top 25 prospect for me. I think it would be too early from a value standpoint. But if you have a vision for him being that just all-encompassing destructive force, you can make it right by picking him that high.
All right, Ian, tell us about Pro Football Network, the coverage you guys will have in the coming days and weeks leading up to the draft, and also your social media account where Jaguar fans can follow you.
Yeah, so if you have any questions for me about the NFL draft, you can follow me at IC_draft on X, formerly Twitter. Not only will I be posting about draft prospects all the way up until the lead up to the draft, I also help run the PFN mock draft simulator. I help cater the rankings and curate the player blurbs and information there. So if you have any feedback, user feedback on players that you think are too high or too low, feel free to hit me up, and I'll give you my eval, and we can make a compromise. But it's a lot of fun. This is the best time of year, and we're still getting into the 2025 stuff, but we're also working ahead to 2026. Once the NFL draft is up, we'll be able to roll over to the 2026 class. We'll have rankings, we'll have a big board. So the work never truly stops, but that's the best part about it. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and we're just kind of holding out till the end of the line.
I hit that PFN simulator, that mock draft simulator, at least once or twice a week. It's a lot of fun this time of year, no doubt about that. Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Ian, I know you're busy. Thank you for taking time out. Let's do it again after the draft. We'll see where the dust is settled when it comes to the Jaguars.
Yes, sir. Going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser, making your morning a little more fleet of foot.
You make me feel like dancing.
Put some spring in your step. With a drill on 1010XL.
MOV, ING, Southside Kia is moving. Our moving sale is on right now. Help us clear new Kias out. Our current selection's got 200 plus Kias on the lot. Hurry to save big with us. New rides starting at just $20,000 bucks. Plus, bring your tax refund today. We'll double it up to $5K. MOV, ING, get to Southside Kia this spring. Online at SouthsideKiaJax.com. Get your next ride at Southside. For complete details, call 904-325-9208.
I'm Chris Campione. Veterans have given so much in the service of our country, but when it comes to legal challenges, you shouldn't have to fight alone. At Campione Law, we're here to help veterans like you get the support and compensation you deserve. Whether it's a workplace injury, a personal injury claim, or navigating a veteran's disability claim, we'll stand by your side every step of the way. Your service to our country matters. Let us serve you with the dedication and respect you deserve. Call Campione Law for a free consultation today. Campione Law, fighting for veterans, fighting for justice. Visit CampioneLaw.com.
Campione Law.
Yo, it's your main man E.T. here, and it's time to make those summer break plans. Clay County is calling. From paddleboarding on Doctors Lake to reeling in the big one on Black Creek, or cruising the St. Johns River. There's no better place to dive into warm weather fun. Enjoy live music, local festivals, food trucks, and fireworks lighting up the night. Discover scenic parks, hidden trails, and must-visit local gyms. Your summer adventures start here. Visit exploreclay.com.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
The best value for golf in Jacksonville remains Cimarron. Totally reestablished with new tee boxes, improved fairways and greens. Also a brand new restaurant with indoor and outdoor settings and live music. Join the Wild One loyalty program online at Cimarron Golf. When's the last time you played Cimarron? Cimarron Golf Club on 210, the Wild One.
Imagine enjoying the beautiful days of summer in North Florida, relaxing in your enclosed patio, free from bugs and debris. I'm Josh Molina, owner of River City Screens. We are your trusted local screen experts. We pride ourselves in our craftsmanship and our relationships, because with Florida's unpredictable weather, you want someone dependable and reliable to show up for you every time. New construction or repairs, call River City Screens, 904-923-3544.
License number SCC 131153483.
The best game day parking in all of Duval is at Tailgaters Parking. Are you ready for some football? Tailgaters is just steps away on the east side of the stadium. Visit tailgatorsparking.com and secure your season parking pass today. It's tune-up time, and Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars, wants to partner with you for a cool summer season. Tune up your AC unit right now so it's running at peak performance when you need it most. Just call 777-4300 and order a tune-up for just $59. Keep your unit humming at optimal level. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com and take advantage of their savings. Keep cool with Florida Home AC. That's 777-4300.
If someone you love needs a pick-me-up, then it's time to get serious about it and send them a Kuhn floral arrangement. Max Fink here with 1010XL. You'll be assured of quality delivery, that's for sure. Log on and order online at kuhnflowers.com.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor, outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Interest rates have plummeted. It's time to call Loan Pronto. Hey, Prosser here, and if you're looking to get cash out of your home equity, refinance out of a high rate, or do a home improvement project, Loan Pronto can make it happen in a matter of just days. Take advantage of this opportunity and get tens or even hundreds of thousands out of your home equity. Pay off all your credit cards. Pay off your car loan. The average homeowner cuts their monthly bills by $1,000. Get more info at loanpronto.com. Inflation and higher costs have put a lot of people in a stressful financial situation. But if you own a home, there's a way out. Loan Pronto has multiple options that can help you get the financial freedom you deserve. Most homeowners get their cash in less than 2 weeks, and most don't even need an appraisal. Do the smart thing. Stop paying insane rates on those credit cards. Wipe them all out. Get a lower mortgage rate. Get some money for that home improvement project. Do it all by going to loanpronto.com or call 904-999-1508. That's loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Cannonball!
Honey, someone's in our pool.
Oh, refreshing.
John, what are you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. Seeing as how me and the guys at Clearwater Irrigation reinstalled your sprinklers after the pool contractor ripped it out, I thought you wouldn't mind if I took a quick dip.
But in a Jaguar print Speedo?
Yeah, Dave. My bad. Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up to 8 o'clock. In for Blue tonight, Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Coming up at 8 o'clock, I'm in for Blue. RJ Saunders is in for me. From 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we'll have Open Gym with RJ Saunders. Speaking of Open Gym, the NBA playoffs get underway. Well, actually, there's 2 games tonight, win or go home scenarios. In fact, tipping off right now, Miami and Atlanta, the Heat and the Hawks. The winner gets Cleveland in round one. The loser's season is over. And then later on tonight, same thing with Dallas and Memphis. The winner of that game gets Oklahoma City in round one. The loser of that game, their season is over. And then tomorrow you have 4 playoff series beginning. Sunday, 4 playoff series beginning. Of course, Orlando and Boston. Game 1 on Sunday, the 2 and 7 in the Eastern Conference. Magic, gigantic underdogs, obviously, to the defending world champions. But amidst all the injuries, for Orlando to find a way to at least get in the playoffs, you can at least take a little something out of that. But I got to tell you, man, these playoff series are going to be great. Houston and Golden State should be good. The Clippers and Denver. Remember, Denver just fired their coach like a week and a half ago. And now the playoffs begin. Boy, that Lakers-Minnesota series should be pretty good as well. That's the game tomorrow night on ABC. And then, of course, on Sunday, you got Knicks-Pistons, Cavaliers versus the winner of tonight's game, Hawks and the Heat. In the Eastern Conference, you also have Pacers-Bucks. So it should be good, man. I'm excited about it. Playoffs are long. We know that, right? That's what the NBA kind of does. They start in April. We won't crown a champion until probably early to mid-June. But the playoffs will begin tomorrow in the association. On the college basketball front, some interesting news for Florida. A day after getting Xavier Lee, one of the big transfers in the portal at guard. Boy, a shocker, right? Denzel Aberdeen enters the transfer portal, as does Sam Alexis. Now, Sam Alexis, I figured probably would. That leads me to believe that Alexis believes that either Chinyelu, Condon, or both of them are coming back. Of course, Chinyelu and Condon have both entered the draft, but they've kept their college eligibility on the table. I thought Alexis would stay if those guys left. But because Alexis is leaving, that leads me to believe that Chinyelu and Condon will return. The Aberdeen one is interesting, and that leaves a hole for Florida. Aberdeen played for Florida for 3 years with Todd Golden, had many opportunities to transfer out, didn't, was a big part of the Gator national championship team. He gets his opportunity as a senior coming up here in 2025, but he leaves. And people say, well, why did he do that? Well, why does anything happen in collegiate athletics right now? The almighty dollar, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at. It's money, money, money. There's a lot of reports out that it had nothing to do. Aberdeen going in the portal had nothing to do with Xavier Lee coming in. It was an NIL situation, which isn't the greatest look for a Gator team that just won the national championship. Maybe a blessing in disguise, but on the surface, this one hurts a little bit because you had to figure Denzel Aberdeen was going to be one of your starting guards, was Xavier Lee, the newcomer from Princeton. So Florida appears to have an opening in the starting lineup now. We'll see what Todd Golden and the Gator basketball team can do about that, but Aberdeen in the portal effective earlier this afternoon. Speaking of the Gators, they wrapped up spring football this past weekend. It was also a crazy weekend in the SEC with the Nico leaving Knoxville saga that played out for the Volunteers. Let's talk a little spring college football. Let's kind of set the scene for the SEC as we move into the summer. Again, you look on that calendar, Media Day is less than 3 months away as we begin creeping our way to the 2025 college football season. Connor O'Gara, SaturdayDownSouth.com, joins us next on a Friday night here in Jacksonville, Florida, with Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you till 8 o'clock. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us right here on Hacker After Dark.
In your car, at home, or on your phone, radio play-by-play is where you are.
What a game for the Jacksonville defense.
1010XL, Jacksonville's home for play-by-play.
Neck pain, back pain, or headache, Shinatri Chiropractic has 4 locations: Westside, 103rd, Riverside, Arlington, and the Beaches. Acupuncture, dry needling, physical therapy. Relief starts today. Shinatri Chiropractic, 743-6700.
An ACL tear can be a devastating injury with prolonged pain and rehabilitation. Hi, I'm Dr. George Bari. I'm a sports medicine orthopedic surgeon who grew up right here in Jacksonville and then went on to train with the world-renowned Dr. James Andrews. At Barry Orthopedics, we use the most current techniques to get you back on the field with less pain and quicker rehabilitation. We treat all types of sports injuries with the newest techniques available. Please call us for consultation or visit barryorthopedics.com.
Find out more at barryorthopedics.com. That's BAHRI orthopedics.com.
A chipped windshield can turn into a big problem fast. Lauren Brooks here. Trust Novus Glass of Jacksonville for expert repair and replacement. Call 904-289-2905 for Novus Glass in Orange Park. 904-289-2905.
There's a lot on the line in a divorce. Your home, savings, maybe even your kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce and the unexpected directions it can take, you need a partner you can count on. I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Don't let divorce take more than it has to.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Experience MJ the Musical at the Jacksonville Center for Performing Arts, April 22nd through 27th. For a chance to win tickets, text MJ Fans to the text line covered by Lifetime Flooring at 641-1010.
Jacksonville's summer heat is coming in fast. Is your AC ready to handle it, or will it quit on you on the hottest day of the year, leaving you sweating and stuck with a huge repair bill? Duck Air Conditioning is here to save the day with a free AC system inspection. Our expert techs will make recommendations to ensure your AC system is running in tip-top shape before the heat arrives. Call now, 904-862-6769. Duck Air Conditioning, duckac.com. Any required repairs are not included in the inspection.
ET here, and it's time for the Taste of Golf at TPC Sawgrass, April 23rd. Join me for fine cuisine from chefs from the top golf clubs in our area. Craft cocktails, games, and unique auction items will be present. This is one of the most impactful charitable events in our area. Come network with a sophisticated audience who's passionate about golf and its values, while impacting the youth in our community. All proceeds benefit First Tee, North Florida. For tickets, go to tasteofgolf.com. Come on, somebody.
Say goodbye to glasses and contacts with customized vision treatments at Bowden Associates. Hey, Hicken here. Dr. Bowden and his expert team bring you all the latest options like Evo implantable Caliber lenses, refractive lens exchange, or traditional LASIK. Tailored just for you. Imagine waking up to clear vision. No hassle, no fuss. You ready to see the difference? Call now or visit BowdenEye.com for a free screening. Bowden Associates, keeping the first coast focused.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Do you know someone looking for a fun and rewarding summer job? Join the YMCA team, gain valuable experience, and make a difference in kids' lives. Turn your passion for this community into a fulfilling career at the First Coast YMCA. Now hiring camp counselors, lifeguards, childcare leaders, and membership experience team. Every single person on the dedicated YMCA staff plays a role in making the Y a welcoming and vital resource for our community. Find your career at the Y at fcymca.org.
Equal opportunity employer.
Beat the spring cleaning rush and call our cleaning heroes at Zero Res. This month, get Zero Resified and take 25% off all services. Visit ZeroResJacksonville.com and tell them Hicken or 1010XL sent you.
Zero Res.
AA Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Florida Gators wrapped up spring practice over the weekend with the orange and blue game. I guess the good news that came out of there is it was announced that DJ Lagway will start throwing again in a couple of weeks. That will hopefully put a lot of those rumors to bed with that shoulder issue or whatever it has been that has limited him in spring practice. I certainly want to talk about the Gators, but the big story in the SEC and really the biggest story in college athletics is the Nico saga in Knoxville that I guess has come to an end with Tennessee now looking for a brand new starting quarterback. Let's talk about all of it with Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Connor, I trust your offseason is going well, man. How are you?
Ryan, doing well. Look, I can't sit here and pretend that I've gone back to Saturday Down South and asked to be paid $4 million per year, but we're doing well. Can't complain.
Well, what a crazy story! And look, we had Jimmy Himes on our radio station on Friday, and when he announced that, in his opinion, he thought Nico was gone. Boy, that really caught me off guard because until that point, at least here in Jacksonville, yeah, we knew about the Nico story, but we didn't know it had gotten to that point. And then, bam, lo and behold, Saturday morning, it was announced that he's going to enter the portal. I mean, what do you make of this situation?
It's truly wild because I thought that Tennessee and Nico would come to some sort of agreement and we would see maybe not that $4 million figure reached, but some sort of incentive-based deal. And both parties would have been able to coexist. And instead, you had a team basically put its foot into the dirt and say, no, we're not going past this line. And that was the talk going into this entire era of college sports was, would teams be willing to push back and show what market value truly is? Now, it's ironic that Tennessee literally went to court for the recruitment of Nico and said to the NCAA, you didn't have the grounds to enforce these NIL rules. We're going to pay him what we want to pay him. And then here we are a few years later, and it turns out that Tennessee didn't want to pay him that unlimited amount. So it's ironic when you consider all that. It's amazing to think about what Tennessee did, knowing that they only have 9 career FBS pass attempts behind him. It's not like they have some quarterback waiting in the wings that's chomping at the bit to be the starter. They're going to have to recruit a guy in the post-spring window. And ultimately, Tennessee's probably looking at a downgrade at the quarterback position. But to pay a guy that's not considered one of the top 5 returning quarterbacks in the SEC $4 million a year, ultimately, they decided it wasn't worth it. And I can't say I blame them.
Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. Just a little backstory. I assume most people know, but for those that don't, it was reported that Nico, the quarterback in Tennessee, there with the Volunteers, was getting anywhere between $2.2 and $2.5 million in NIL in a 3-year contract, if you will. Reportedly, Nico's reps, by reps I mean reportedly his father, went to Tennessee and said, yeah, this isn't exactly working for us. We want upwards of $4 million. Tennessee said, no, I don't think so. So we basically had a holdout situation in college, and Nico has now decided to enter the transfer portal effective this week. I thought all eyes, Connor, were going to be on this, from star players to all the big schools around the country, to see how it played out. Because if Tennessee buckled here, I mean, that would have opened up the floodgates, would it not?
It would have. It absolutely would have. And I can guarantee you there are a lot of other schools who are going, oh, thank goodness Tennessee did not just give this guy all this money. Now, there's the other side of it, which is, I can't remember who it was that reported this, but that quarterbacks that have Tennessee reaching out to them are now getting a pay increase. So it kind of works in both ways. Ultimately, in the NIL era, someone's getting paid. It's just, what does it look like? But yeah, I mean, you had to stand up for the market. And that's what's going to be really interesting to see with what Tennessee does moving forward is, are they going to kind of shy away from this because they've got the number 1 recruit in the 2026 class lined up at the quarterback position, and you're going to have to figure out what's it going to look like moving forward. Are there lessons to be learned from this? And is Tennessee going to go into the portal and maybe try and get somewhat of a cheap option for 2025? Because that's going to be the big question is, what is this team going to look like? And are they going to actually be able to find something that works in a quarterback-friendly system, but one that is not necessarily easy for a quarterback to master from the jump? That's, I think, going to be what all eyes are going to be on. And this breakup, it will be fascinating, and it's something that we're going to be talking about, I think, for a long time.
Connor, it's an absolute free-for-all right now with NIL and the portal and everything. And look, I was all for players getting paid too, right? I thought that, schools made millions and millions of dollars year after year, and that athletes should receive their fair share of that because of how much money they brought in the university. But even I'm starting to look at this, $4 million for this guy, $3 million for that guy. We actually have holdouts now in college football. You can transfer as many times as you want with really no ramifications. I mean, there's got to be some regulation on some of this stuff at some point, does there not?
Yeah, there will be. I think there will be, but ask yourself this. You talk NFL a lot. You talk about holdouts in the NFL all the time. That stuff still exists. And even if there is more regulation of what's against the rules and what's not, and if there are actual contracts in place, there are still going to be outside factors that are going to impact this. As long as there's that much money to be gained, there is still going to be someone somewhere that is leveraging to get more of it. And that's what I believe to be the case. I think this is still going to be considered a cautionary tale, and a lot of people will rightfully point to the lack of structure as to what kind of got us to this place. But at the same time, I do think that even in a new world that could have more regulation, we will still see cases like this with holdouts. Maybe it won't always be at quarterback, what's the most important position, the position that can lose a locker room if it does the wrong thing, like skip a practice and then not be able to be contacted by anybody on the team. But you're still going to have these situations because the money is too great and there's still too much of it to be earned.
Couple of more for Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. Let's bring it closer to home to Gainesville. The Gators wrapped up their spring practice on Saturday. As you can imagine, everybody in Northeast Florida is still on, cloud nine from the basketball team. Quickly, I didn't talk to you during that run. What did you make of Todd Golden and what the basketball team was able to accomplish?
What a remarkable run. One of the most battle-tested runs ever to get through an SEC that deep. Everybody talked about how many teams they had in the NCAA tournament and all that, but the fact that they were a 1 seed that had basically the most difficult road you could have, especially if you consider Texas Tech to be a better team than St. John's, and they still were able to find a way after falling behind in all these games and come out and win. We'll talk about the resiliency of Florida for a really long time, as we should. It really is one of the all-time great postseason runs. And I think what Walter Clayton Jr. did, one up to the Kemba Walker run of 2011. Maybe I'll get some pushback on that because the national championship game itself wasn't a vintage Walter Clayton Jr. performance, but I'd still put it up there and say that it was a generational run. He had more help around him, but I did not have Florida looking this good coming into the season. And by the end, I argue that going into the NCAA tournament, I think they should be the favorites ahead of Auburn, ahead of Duke, and they were able to kind of hold up their end of the bargain. But yeah, finally the SEC drought is over. First national championship for an SEC team since 2012, and it feels like we're entering a very new era of SEC hoops.
You won't get any pushback on the Walter Clayton thought in this market, I can assure you of that. People loved what he did here in the city of Jacksonville. I'm going to end with the Gators, but a broad topic because we're on it. It just means more on the gridiron, yet they have not won a national title in football in a couple of years. Whereas you look at basketball, and they might have had the best conference in a single season in decades in college basketball. Does that put any added pressure on the football programs in the conference to kind of reclaim, what they've lost the last few seasons?
I don't think so, but I do think that gap is closer than it's ever been, ever. Now, I still think it would take 20 years for the SEC to be known as a basketball first conference ahead of football. And I'm not trying to diminish other sports. Lord knows they've dominated things like women's basketball and baseball, and they've had so much success in gymnastics and others. So I'm not trying to diminish that, but just in terms of what's the priority, is the SEC becoming, what the Big East was at times, or even the ACC. I think we're a long ways off from getting to that place. I do think, though, that there is that angst amongst SEC football programs who are not used to enduring a 2-year stretch without appearing in a national championship game, something that hasn't happened in 2 decades. And I do think that it does feel like a critical time for SEC football to kind of show, hey, look, we're still the premier conference in the sport, despite the fact that the Big Ten obviously has been able to claim the last 2 national championships after so many years of feeling like they were that good but not great conference. But yeah, I mean, there'll be no shortage of spending that reflects that sense of urgency, maybe beginning with that post-spring window.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Let's end with Florida. I imagine in April of last year when you and I talked, probably neither one of us thought Billy Napier was going to be there in April of 2025, yet here we are. A lot of pressure on Napier coming into the year again, Connor. A very tough schedule again, certainly. But on paper, it looks like, at least what we can read into it, that this roster appears to be pretty solid.
Should be, as long as DJ Lagway has the shoulder and is capable of throwing. That I think this Florida team should pick up right where it left off. I really do. Because Trey Wilson, that's the other guy, too, that people are going to kind of forget about in this offseason, who should step in and be a number one receiver and be a go-to guy for DJ Lagway. That feels like it's going to be a huge addition. I still expect them to be pretty active in the post-spring window here. But look, Florida's defense finally figured it out down the stretch. They had the best 6-game stretch that they've had in the 2020s decade. That includes the Kyle Trask team with that doormat of a defense they had that year, when we all know that it was kind of the beginning of the end of the Todd Grantham era. But this does feel like a team that has turned the corner. Now, that doesn't guarantee success, especially with a schedule that still projects to be extremely difficult, even if it's not historically difficult. But yeah, I mean, they have so many more strengths going into this year. One of the best offensive lines in all of college football, one of the best young backs in Jaden Ball. Like, this is a Florida team that, with Lagway at the center of it, feels like it has a much different ceiling, because he doesn't necessarily put pressure on the coaching staff to put up this elite scheme week in, week out, and he can kind of cover up some holes for you. So I do think that Florida's in just a much better spot. And you know what? Credit Billy Napier. I don't know if he's going to be a great play caller this year, but I do think that he's done a great job of weathering the storm.
Yeah, to me, when they got Caleb Banks, Tyreek Sapp, Austin Barber, and Jake Slaughter to all come back, 2 O linemen, 2 D linemen, I mean, those are 4 guys that would have probably been drafted up in Green Bay next week that are back on the Gator football team. That was huge for this offseason for Billy Napier. Connor, final thought. We know Napier's still on a hot seat. I would imagine Sam Pittman and Fayetteville still on a hot seat. Are there any other hot seats coming into the 2025 season in the conference?
I think Hugh Freeze has the hottest seat in college football.
Yeah.
That might be unpopular, but I just think the lack of progress last year was so maddening. When, what does he really have to blame? Well, he has his quarterback decision to blame for that. And they kept turning the football over. And they did not field an offense that was capable of taking that next step. And that's going to be really frustrating to look back on, considering Jarquez Hunter was one of the SEC's best running backs. And you had a defense that was actually better than what the numbers probably told you that they were. But you had all these fourth quarter moments in which you just collapsed. And so I think Hugh Freeze, even though he replaced Brian Harsin and seemingly had a long leash, I think he's entering year 3 in a place where he's got to get to that 8-win mark. And if he doesn't, there are going to be people on the plains that go, what are we doing? We have to start over again for the 3rd time in the 2020s. I mean, that would be a really, really tough pill to swallow, but they're going to have to improve. They just have to, especially with what could be their most talented receiver group that they've ever had there. And if this is another situation where a transfer quarterback comes in and it just doesn't look really good with Jackson Arnold, that's going to be a tough thing to endure for Hugh Freeze. So I'd say he's got the hottest seat of anyone. And then Brent Venables at Oklahoma, he's another one that if he doesn't make those big strides this year, they're going to pay a historic buyout. They will absolutely do it if this is another year where the offense just doesn't match up to what they've done in years past. It doesn't have to be Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield levels of dominant, but gosh, they at least need to be respectable after they were a total doormat last year. So I think those are the 2 that definitely come to mind that everybody's going to have their eye on the SEC.
Connor, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, man, Saturday down south and what you guys will have coming out in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, appreciate that. We've got a lot of coverage related to the portal. We're still talking about all things Nico. I've got something coming out tomorrow about the floor for the Tennessee offense. It feels like we're going to see it this upcoming year, including a little scenario I threw out for possibilities of what Tennessee can do at the quarterback position in the portal window. But yeah, there's just a lot to talk about in college sports right now, despite the fact that we're kind of wrapping up spring. It's been a really quiet spring with SEC football, but lots and lots of stuff going on right now. There's just always something in this business, man, as you know.
Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. Connor, I know you're busy. Thank you for taking time out, man. We'll talk again soon, pal.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, man.
There you go. Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South with us here on Hacker After Dark. Certainly appreciate him taking time out for us. The NBA playoffs, well, I guess the play-in, although the loser is eliminated tonight. The loser season comes to an end. Miami and Atlanta, 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. Now, Miami started 10-0 on the Hawks. It couldn't have started any worse for Atlanta. Atlanta's found their footing a little bit. Miami leads 21-16. over Atlanta. Again, the loser's season is over. The winner advances to take on Cleveland. Game 1 of that series will be Sunday. And then later on tonight, same thing, Dallas and Memphis. The loser's season is over. The winner advances to take on Oklahoma City, with Game 1 being on Sunday. Back into the National Football League when we return here on Hacker After Dark. Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team will join us to talk Jaguar draft. Marcus is also based in Dallas. I want to ask about Jordan Lewis. I want to ask about Chuma Edogbah, the 2 former Cowboys that signed with Jacksonville in free agency. And we'll also talk a little Ashton Genty. We'll talk certainly a little Jalen Walker, Mason Graham, and more. Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team joins us next on a Friday night here on Hacker After Dark. We're glad you're with us till 8 o'clock on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars, Gators, Seminoles.
We're going the right way.
Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Of course.
1010XL.
Hey guys, it's that time of year again. The home team is looking for new players on the field, and you're looking to get that old car or truck out of your driveway. I can help. This is John Johnson over at First Coast Recycling. We buy junk cars. Draft us to buy your old car or truck for fast cash. Just call 904-294-1659 for a quick and easy quote from First Coast Recyclers. Come on, let's take your driveway back.
This is Mark Nato. My sons and I have seen the doctors and PAs at Southeast Ortho for everything from lumbar spine stress to elbow tendonitis. Southeast has always been there, been truthful, and always been on point. Everything they say happens. We can't thank them enough for what they've done and the great care that they have taken of our sons.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Interested in a unique date night? Gibby here. I took my wife Nikki to Wick a Candle Bar. She made her own custom candle right there in the store. Shop local at Wick a Candle Bar. Locations in San Marco and Jacks Beach.
We're certainly facing interesting economic times. For me, it's comforting to know my money's in good hands with ITP Partners. Jacksonville guys taking care of my Jacksonville money. Experience? Yeah, that's Chris Bryan, Jeff Hartman, Reagan Wright, Dan Abel, Scott Regner, Janice Cobb, and Reed Wingate. They have the expertise and knowledge to take care of your money. For more info, go to itppartners.com. ITP Partners, they're my financial partners for life.
Non-compensated client testimonial may not be representative of all client experiences. No guarantee of future performance or success.
Life happens every day, and sometimes it gets in the way. That's why 1010XL makes it easy to listen to your favorites. If you missed it, get it on demand.
At 1010XL.com.
Channeled by Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning.
A lot goes into taking care of your property. You need equipment with more reliability and versatility built in, like Kubota BX and L Series compact tractors to get the job done right, Z Series mowers that deliver a quality cut, and Sidekick utility vehicles where durability meets speed. Visit Coastal Equipment for a demo today.
Greater power for the great outdoors. Coastal Equipment.
Coastal Equipment on New Kings Road and in McClenny.
Your home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you breathe, drink, and power through life. At Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to keep it all running smoothly. From clean, cool air to clean water, reliable power to expert plumbing, we do it all. For over 35 years, families have trusted Donovan to make their homes healthier, safer, and more comfortable. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing today, 904-270-COOL, where health meets home.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
If you'd like to help support domestic violence victims, you can get involved in the Par for a Purpose golf tournament, hosted by Micah's Place at the Golf Club of Amelia Island on June 20th. Register and learn more at micahsplace.org/golf.
The Tom Coughlin J Fund helps families battling childhood cancer, and there are ways you can help. Go to tcjfund.org.
If you're a dog lover who wants to help animals, our furry friends need exercise and time out of their kennels. You can make a difference in a dog's life at volunteer@jaxhumane.org.
Military veterans have always protected us, and in Jacksonville, thousands of our veterans suffer from mental wounds like PTSD. Now it's time to return the favor. Learn how you can help at woundedwarriorproject.org.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
All right, fellas, I got to brag a little. I'm down 40 pounds thanks to Awaken 180 weight loss and keeping it off.
That's cute, Matt. I'm down 110 pounds. That's like losing a Backstreet Boy.
Okay, so I'm the rookie here. I just started, but I'm already down 13 pounds, and let me tell you, it feels good to see the results already.
That's the thing, man. Awaken 180 works. No shots, no meds, no gimmicks, just real food, real support, and real results.
The support team is a game changer because we all know it's so easy to get distracted. But with Awaken 180, you get your own coach and a plan that works with your lifestyle.
And free support for life.
Plus, no gym workouts required, which is great because let's be honest, I wasn't running wind sprints either.
25, 40, even 110 pounds. If we all can do it, so can you. Call 844-346-1800 or visit awaken180weightloss.com.
That's 844-346-1800 or awaken180weightloss.com.
What does your dream backyard look like? Hey, it's Joe C. and my friends at CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living can design an outdoor kitchen layout custom built to your taste and lifestyle. You dream it, they can build it. CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Visit cssoutdoor.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down from the cool guys at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Fast, reliable, and honest service since '87.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. And all of a sudden, you look on that calendar, man, and we are well inside of 2 weeks away from the NFL draft next Thursday up in Green Bay. Of course, the Jaguars 10 picks overall, including that number 5 overall selection. Let's talk draft. Let's look back on the Jaguar offseason, and let's look around the rest of the National Football League. Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team. He's also the host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. And Marcus is always kind enough to give us some time here on 1010XL. Marcus, how we doing, man?
Doing great. This is always one of the best times of the year. The anticipation is building for the draft. Everybody's hopes are high. It's fun. There's nothing better than the week or two leading up to the draft.
No, I agree. There's a lot of anticipation here in Jacksonville. Again, 10 picks overall, including that number 5 overall pick. But before we get there, let's take a look back at free agency. You and I haven't spoken since the Jaguars added 10 guys, including 2 from the Dallas Cowboys, a team you're very familiar with as the host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Let's begin with Jordan Lewis. He was the first guy the Jaguars went out and got, and all indications early on here in Jacksonville, Marcus, they're very happy with that acquisition.
Yeah, Jacksonville fans are going to love Jordan Lewis. The Cowboys really wanted to retain Jordan Lewis. He is somebody that they valued as one of their key pieces of their defense. And their defense really only worked because of Jordan Lewis. You had this slot corner that would make plays in the run game, could make plays down the field. You could match him up against not only slot receivers, but running backs as well out of the backfield. I think the Cowboys were surprised at how much money he got in free agency, But they shouldn't have been, because Jordan Lewis was incredible this year. He's one of the best slot corners in the league. I have no doubt that he's going to be successful for Jacksonville right away.
He also likes to mix it up on social media, from what I've seen. Jordan will kind of speak his mind, and I kind of like that a little bit. 2 questions about Jordan Lewis from Jaguar fans. Let me throw them both at you. Number one, he is 29. Any concern there, or do you think he still has a lot of good football left?
And this is one of the things that the Cowboys were trying to figure out, because usually these undersized slot corners, there is a point where they start to fall off, right? And I don't think the Cowboys wanted to give him, $10, $11 million a year, especially with somebody who's had as many injuries as he's had. He had a really bad injury going into the 2023 season, where there were a lot of people wondering if he was ever going to play again. That's how bad his foot injury was. He had an elbow injury that he played through this year. But as long as he's healthy, I have no concerns about his game. He's such a physical and such a smart football player that I just don't see any way that he's not productive at his age 29, age 30 season.
Marcus Mosher, the 33rd team in the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Marcus, not only Jordan Lewis, but the Jaguars went back to Dallas to get offensive tackle Chuma Edogbia. Your thoughts on him? I think with Chuma, the word I keep hearing is potential that maybe hasn't been lived up to yet.
Yeah, I kind of think he is what he is at this stage of his career. Now, I think for Dallas, he was a pretty good swing tackle. He was able to play both tackle spots, primarily left tackle for the Cowboys. He's a better pass blocker than he is run blocker at this point. He's not overly big for a left tackle. In fact, he's one of the smallest offensive tackles in the league right now when you look at wingspan, arm length, height. But he does an adequate job. I always like to say with Chuma, he loses slowly, which is exactly what you want your swing tackle to do, right? Like, just go into the game and don't get us killed. I think that's what he is. I think he has some experience playing guard, although that's not his strong suit because his lack of size really shows up at guard. I do think he's one of the better swing tackles in the league, and it sounds like that's where Jacksonville's going to have it.
They added 4 offensive linemen, including Chuma, to that mix, so we'll certainly see what happens. Again, Tony Baselli, obviously now involved as the EVP of football operations here in Jacksonville, and they were very active in adding offensive linemen. All right, Marcus, let's get to the draft, and before we focus on Jacksonville, let's get your thoughts on what's going to happen above Jacksonville. I mean, we're less than 2 weeks out. Is it your opinion that Cam Ward to the Titans is pretty much a done deal at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when they canceled the interview with Shedeur Sanders or the workout with Shedeur, I think that told us everything we need to know. I would be stunned. It would be one of the biggest draft surprises ever if Cam Ward doesn't go at number 1 at this point.
What kind of pro do you think he'll be? Here in Jacksonville, obviously, we want to know because Tennessee, we have to deal with them twice a year. Do you like Cam Ward as a prospect?
I do like Cam Ward. Maybe I'm on an island here, but I think Cam Ward is a better prospect than the second group of quarterbacks that went last year. That's J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. I just think he's a better playmaker than all 3 of those guys. He's the best runner of those 3. He definitely needs to be reined in a little bit, and there's a couple throws every game where you're just shaking your head wondering what he's thinking. But more often than not, especially when these games get close, he's really good at closing them out. So I think it's going to depend a little bit on the talent around Cam Ward. But, yeah, I think that he has the potential to be a top 12, top 13 quarterback in the NFL.
Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team. All right, Cam Ward goes 1. Then I guess the question is Shedeur Sanders. There was a time we thought he wasn't going to go. Then there was a time that he was going to go in the top 4. Now it appears he's probably not going in the top 4 again. What's your thought there?
I think we're in for a draft day fall for sure. I think he's a good quarterback prospect. I think he's accurate. I think he's got good anticipation. I think he's really tough. But the NFL loves traits, and he just doesn't have A-plus traits. His arm is good, but it's not great. He's not a good runner by any stretch. He's not very good at escaping pressure. So I think he's somebody that will probably go in the teens or early 20s. I know there's a lot of people mocking him to the Saints because of the Derek Carr situation, but I just don't get that sense at all. I think we could see Shedeur falling pretty far into this draft.
Well, that would be bad news for Jacksonville, but I think it's news that we're kind of getting accustomed to and getting prepared for, because obviously we were hoping Shedeur would go in the top 4 to drop somebody down. Now, if Cam Ward goes 1, I think we're in agreement Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter will both be gone somewhere in the top 4. Then it really comes down to New England, right? What does New England do at 4 before Jacksonville selects at number 5?
I think there's been a building consensus that they're just going to take one of the offensive linemen, whether it's Will Campbell from LSU or Armand Membu from Missouri. I'm starting to wonder if that won't be the case. And we see New England go in a different direction. There's some really good offensive line talents that should be available in round 2. But maybe a player like Jalen Walker, who can play a little bit of everything in Mike Vrabel's defense, edge, off-the-ball linebacker, you can stand him up over the center. I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody that they would consider. And then the other players, Ashton Jeanty. I think it's foolish to draft a running back at number 4, especially considering where New England is at in their rebuild. But I could see the Patriots talking themselves into Jeanty just being the best player on the board. And you just take a premier talent if he's available, and they'll figure out the offensive line later. I'm at the stage where I'm almost expecting not an offensive lineman to be picked at number 4.
Couple of more from Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team. Certainly Jeanty and Jalen Walker, as you mentioned, those are guys we've talked about here, Marcus, in Jacksonville. But the main guy is obviously Mason Graham. And my thought for the last couple of weeks has been, all right, he's been mocked to Jacksonville so much, and there's such an obvious need. And you look at what James Gladstone helped the Rams do last year with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, that it just makes too much sense. And I started to overthink it, right? I'm like, well, maybe it's not as obvious. But this weekend, I've just been centered again. I'm like, it's just too obvious. It makes too much sense. Don't overthink this. They're going to select Mason Graham. What's your thought there?
If Mason Graham is the pick, I think everybody's going to be on board with it, right? Taking one of the best players in the country, adding more talent to your pass rush is never a bad idea. But you do wonder if they're going to look at maybe some of these other positions, whether it is Jalen Walker and try to get another pass rusher. Maybe it's somebody like Will Johnson and getting another outside corner. They can make some plays in the ball. I think Jacksonville would love to trade out of that spot, but I don't necessarily see anybody coming up to try to get to number 5 either. So they're in a really unique situation, and I think they're just going to default to, hey, this is a awesome defensive tackle that can fit our scheme. We'll pair him with Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen-Hines, and let's go.
You know, you talk about Mason Graham, and it would certainly help what the Jaguars are trying to do on the D-line. You also look at the fact that they added 10 free agents, Marcus. 8 of them were on the offensive side of the ball, and the only 2 defensive guys they added were a corner in Jordan Lewis and a safety in Eric Murray. So there again, I mean, you try not to read too much into free agency, but they didn't do anything on the front 7. That's why, to me, Mason Graham is in play for Jacksonville, and I think, like you said, Jalen Walker is an intriguing prospect as well at number 5.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to keep saying Will Johnson, and I'm not the biggest Will Johnson fan, but you have Tyson Campbell, you have Jordan Lewis. Maybe they look to upgrade that other left cornerback spot, or maybe they just want to add more talent in the secondary and try to build like what the Texans have, where you have this awesome secondary, and now you can just let your pass rush tee off. I think everything is on the table for Jacksonville as they try. I would be shocked if it's an offensive player at this point. I think they're going to draft somebody on defense to help get that unit back to being respectable.
Marcus, as we begin to wrap up, quick final thought on Jordan Lewis. Can he play outside? There's a thought here that Jarian Jones, Jordan Lewis may actually both be competing for that outside spot if they don't draft somebody reasonably high.
I would be pretty shocked. Jordan Lewis does not have a lot of experience playing outside. The last time he did was when he was at Michigan. And he's just not a very big player overall. I think he's at his best when he's closer to the ball. He just does a better job of helping in run support. I think if you're using him on the outside, you're limiting kind of his upside and his potential. I don't think that would be a wise move for Jacksonville at all.
Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team. Appreciate that perspective, man. You've obviously followed him a lot closer than we have. All right, as we say goodbye, I just want to focus on the division real quick. We talked about Tennessee. They gave $80 million to Dan Moore, which I know was interesting around league circles. And we talked about Cam Ward. I don't know what Houston is doing on the offensive line. It was terrible last year, so I get trying to bring in new players, but they might want to bring in better players, which I'm not sure they did. And Indianapolis appears to have a full-blown quarterback controversy on their hands in mid-April. It's been a wild offseason in the AFC South, correct?
Yeah, but it's no different than any other offseason in the AFC South. This is one of the weirdest divisions every single year, and it's hard to get a grasp on what all these teams are doing. The Texans are one that I actually understand the philosophy a little bit of, hey, our offensive line was bad and expensive last year. So if we're going to be bad, let's at least be cheap. And they moved on from Laramie Tunsil. They got some draft picks. They saved some money. They're bringing in a player like Cam Robinson, who is a downgrade from Tunsil, but you're saving a lot of money. And then their other four starters, Titus Howard, Jarrett Patterson, Juice Scruggs, and Blake Fisher, are all pretty young. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try to draft a left tackle in round one and just try to be young and develop those guys. I don't think it's a bad philosophy because they were so bad last year. At least go with youth and be a cheap offensive line so you can spend all the rest of your cap space on defense, which is what they've done this offseason.
You think Daniel Jones starts over Anthony Richardson in Indy?
Not right away. I think they want Richardson to win that job. They're going to give him every opportunity to do so. But I wouldn't be surprised we get to week 7, we get to week 8, and the receivers start chirping a little bit how they're not getting passes, they're not getting accurate targets, and we see Daniel Jones sooner rather than later.
Marcus, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, man, the 33rd team. We also have quite a few Cowboy fans in this city. The Locked On Cowboys podcast, where they can find your work.
Yeah, at Marcus_Mosher on Twitter /X. Also host a fantasy podcast for the Locked On Podcast Network. All over social media. You'll find me somewhere.
Marcus, I know you're busy, man. Appreciate the time as always. We'll talk again soon, pal.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
There you go. Marcus Mosher of the 33rd team with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. And yeah, look, I like the perspective on Jordan Lewis. I like the perspective on Chuma Edogba. Obviously, he followed them very closely as also the host of the Locked On Cowboys podcast. And look, we've given you a lot of perspectives tonight. You know, it's interesting. This poll that I put out there on social media, right? Who do you want the Jaguars to draft at number 5 6 nights from tonight? And I gave 4 different options. And those options were, of course, Ashton Genty, Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, and Will Campbell. And a lot of you have voted, which I certainly appreciate. About 400, just about 500 votes now in the last 90 minutes or so. 54% of, actually, it's well over 500. You know why, Denmark? Shout out my guy Dilla. Dilla retweeted me, and now it's taken off like brush fire. Dilla, you're the man. I got to get Dilla back on. He'll be after the draft. 560-plus votes on Twitter. Ashton Genty, 53%. It doesn't surprise me. We talked about this. I actually talked about this with Gus Logue on the Duval Rundown on the 1010XL social media platform earlier this morning. This has been such a roller coaster. It started months ago with Will Johnson. Remember that? The Michigan corner, Will Johnson to Jacksonville. And then there was the thought that maybe Abdul Carter or maybe Travis Hunter would fall to you. And that thought got erased from our minds pretty quickly. And then throughout this process, Tet McMillan had a cup of coffee in our minds. Jalen Walker had a cup of coffee in our minds. Will Campbell, right? But for the longest time, it's been Mason Graham. And now we seem to be fully in the Ashton Genty cup of coffee version of this draft process. And we'll see what happens 6 nights from tonight. But I'm not surprised that an overwhelming majority, over half of the people that have voted, and again, we're almost at 600 votes, want Ashton Genty to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. I'm done in just a matter of moments, but the local programming doesn't stop there, as RJ Saunders has open gym 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. Quickly before we get to RJ, the NBA playoffs begin tomorrow. 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday, although the winner-go-home scenarios have already began. I told you guys earlier, Hawks and the Heat, loser season is over. 7 minutes to go in the first half. Miami 45, Atlanta 34. Later on tonight, Dallas and Memphis, same scenario. Loser season is over. The winner advances into the NBA playoffs. RJ Saunders, Open Gym, comes up at 8 o'clock. Let's check in with RJ right now.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
All right, RJ, almost 600 votes. 53% of the people in this poll, of 600, which is a big number, won Ashton Genty. Mason Graham, 31%. Will Campbell, 11%. Jalen Walker, 5%. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. I think he's the sexy name, and he's the guy that everybody would want. I think you do want a guy that's going to be able to light up the scoreboard if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you also hear from a guy like Liam Cohen that he wants a run game here in Jacksonville to help support Trevor Lawrence and the offense at large. So if you're going by that reason, if you're, a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, I can understand it. However, how many more needs are on the table for Jacksonville that you could probably solve with that 5th pick? I mean, you have 2 running backs under contract, at least for the next year. So if you get Ashton Genty, maybe you're saying you're confident in that offensive line to block for him. So it's definitely going to be interesting here because we talked yesterday. I don't think anybody knows who they're going to pick at 5. I don't even know if Gladstone knows yet.
Well, it's interesting, though. We've had no Ashton Genty talk here for 3 months.
Right.
And then in the last 72 hours, the Ashton Genty talk has exploded. That's not by chance. That's not a coincidence. Something is up. They're floating that out there because they're either thinking about taking him or they want people to think they're thinking about taking him.
And that would be quite the Jedi mind trick if you're trying to get some extra picks from a team that's saying, no, we want Genty to fall to us. And if there is fuel to the fire that the Jaguars could take him at 5, I mean, what's going to be their asking price to get off of that 5th pick and move down in the draft so we can move up and take him at 5 so no one else even has that opportunity if Jacksonville does not take him with the 5th overall pick. So if James Gladstone is doing that, somebody has to be leaking this out. If James Gladstone is thinking that and he's wanting just those extra picks because he has said we have 10 picks, but we would love to have more, maybe that's what is on the brink, and maybe that's the mindset of the Jacksonville Jaguars in that building. But, I mean, we here at 1010XL don't know. It's definitely just going to be interesting to see. I mean, we're less than a week away from the NFL draft. The Jacksonville Jaguars could move down. They could stay at the number 5 pick a Mason Graham, pick an Ashton Genty. This is really a wait-and-see process that we have here with the new regime.
We'll finally have some clarity next Thursday. What do you have coming up tonight on Open Gym?
Well, I do want to get into the mindset of a new head coach and kind of what advice would you give to a new head coach being that of a head coach. And I'm talking about Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards has been around the National Football League. He's also been a coach in college. When you're the new guy in a building, how do you build culture with inside a building? Kind of what is the plan? What are the short-term goals? What are the long-term goals? And how do you create a relationship with a quarterback in which you've never coached? So we'll talk with him at the bottom of the hour, of the 8 o'clock hour, about that. And then it's NBA playoff time. It's the most wonderful time of the year to guys like you and me. So we'll have Keith Smith on to talk about everything and preview the NBA playoffs for us. That'll be starting tomorrow. And it's definitely an exciting time for me. I know I'm going to be sitting in front of the TV watching all the games, especially with the Lakers and Wolves. I want to see how that filler game turns out.
RJ, good job this week, man. I'll be listening.
Thank you.
RJ Saunders, Open Gym, comes up right now on 1010XL. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. Thank you guys for listening not only tonight, but all week to us here on Hacker After Dark. As we always tell you, and we cannot possibly tell you enough how much we absolutely appreciate it. All the blood, the sweat, and the tears of draft coverage. Next week, it's finally here, the NFL draft. It should be a lot of fun. For all of us here on Hacker After Dark, have a terrific remainder of your Friday evening and a fantastic weekend. And we will talk to you again Monday night here on 1010XL. Don't go anywhere. RJ Saunders and Open Gym comes up next. Have a great weekend, everybody.
XL celebrates blue-collar breadwinners and hard-working handymen.
I'm taking what they're giving because I'm working for a living.
Gold City Radio. 1010 1010XL.
When you think of America, you think baseball, cookouts, military, and pride for our country. At Garber Auto Mall, we're proud to carry every American-made truck at one location: Ford, Chevy, GMC, Ram, and Jeep.